March 11th meeting of the Painesville City Board of Education is now called to order. Mrs. Seaman?
Dr. Humphreys.
Yes.
Ms. Barzoni.
Yes.
Ms. Remington.
Yes.
Mr. Tackett.
Yes.
Mr. Webster.
Yes.
And if we will stand for the pledge of allegiance, please. Where's the flag?
I know. It's where it's always at.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we need a motion to adopt this evening's agenda, please.
So move.
Second?
Any discussion?
Yes, actually, I'd like to make a slight revision. In item 15, I'd like to strike the words appointment, dismissal, discipline, demotion, and put an and between employment and compensation.
Okay.
Okay, everybody
So that was the result of the workshop this weekend. so-
Yes. So Sherry, why don't you run that by her again?
We're taking on appointments.
Just so that it says for consideration of employment or compensation of an employee or.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I think we do
We
have
do
to.
need to make a
We gotta-
motion to
Amend.
amend the agenda, yes.
Right,
So you're doing that, Mr. Tackett?
and
And we need a
she's
second?
seconding.
Yes, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, so we are moving on to,
Voting. We have to vote.
Voting.
We have to actually vote.
yes, on the amended agenda.
Yes. Okay, Dr. Humphreys.
Yes.
Ms. Remington.
Yes.
Mr. Tackett.
Yes.
Mr. Webster.
Yes.
Ms. Barzoni.
Yes. And Dr. Humphreys, do we have anyone that has signed in to speak this evening?
We have no one signed in this.
Okay, thank you. We need a motion to approve the minutes of last month's meeting of February 11th.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Conley?
Ms. Remington.
Yes.
Mr. Tackett.
Yes.
Mr. Webster.
Abstain.
Dr. Humphreys.
Yes.
Ms. Barzoni.
Yes. And we need a motion to approve the minutes of the work session of February 20th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the work session minutes? Mrs. Seaman?
Mr. Tackett.
Yes.
Mr. Webster.
Yes.
Dr. Humphreys.
Yes.
Abstain. Change my vote, please, to abstain.
You, oh, you were here for that,
I was
sorry.
here for that, yeah.
It was Miss Remington that wasn't here for that.
Right.
Sorry, you were here. My
Okay.
mistake.
Yeah.
So you're voting yes.
I always remember stuff perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Tackett, you're a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Webster, you were a yes.
Yes.
Dr. Humphreys.
Yes.
Ms. Remington.
Abstain.
And Barzoni.
Yes. Okay. Dr. Engelhardt, presentations?
So welcome, everybody. Got a nice crowd here. One of the great things that we get to do regularly is honor our students who are doing great things. And so we're pleased to have you with us as we do that for a few different things this evening. In the first the first set of students that we want to recognize are our district spelling bee winner and runner-up. So for most of us, it's been a few years since we've done a spelling bee. But I admire the kids who really invest the time and the effort into that task, into that performance, because it takes not only a lot of hard work to memorize and to come up with your own tricks, to remember things, but then you have to stand in front of people in what's really a high-pressure situation, and you have to perform. So it is, I think that the kids, they might learn to spell a little better, but I would say that the value-added aspect of participating in those events is just the kind of character building and the reinforcement of that hard work and the ability to perform. So we really honor our kids who really work really hard in those tasks. So the first student that we want to recognize tonight is Jennifer Fonseca Moscasa. Can you come on up, Jennifer? Jennifer, we have a certificate to present to you tonight. I'll read what it says. It says, in recognition of outstanding effort and excellence in performance as the 2019 District Spelling Bee runner-up, you have brought pride to your school and family as a model of leadership and academic excellence. Congratulations, Jennifer. Good job, Jennifer. And second, we have Owen Updike. Owen, would you come on up? So Owen was our district spelling bee winner this year. And Owen went on to really perform really well at the district spelling bee, right? So when I talk about pressure, with each step, like that pressure cranks up. And I think, how many rounds did you go? 21 rounds or something like that?
Yeah.
But really deep into the competition and just missed that top place by a hair. And really great job. And he was so poised and so confident, and he represented us all so well. So we're really proud of Owen. We have a certificate to present to Owen, and it reads, in recognition of outstanding effort and excellence in performance as the 2019 District Spelling Bee champion, you have brought pride to your school and family as a model of leadership and academic excellence. Congratulations, Owen.
Great job, thank you.
Congratulations, and thanks to your families for your support in that endeavor. I know that you, if your kids are all like mine, you probably had to be on top of them a little bit to make sure that they're practicing. That's a big part of success, is working together and supporting one another. So we really appreciate it. So congratulations once again, Jennifer. Great job.
Awesome.
And then we have another special presentation. So for this presentation, I'll ask Ms. Smith and anyone else who you'd like to include in your group. Now I'm going to turn it over to you.
Madam President, governing board members, it's an honor to introduce my teacher, Ms. Yeomans, Kristen Yeomans. She is going to present some information about Hala Khalil and why she nominated Hala for Campfire Absolutely Incredible Kid Day, which has resulted in Hala being able to go to 2 conferences, all expenses paid, to represent our district and herself and her family very well. Here's Mrs. Yeomans.
You'll have to forgive me, it's a little lengthy.
Should we have Hala come down?
Do you want to come down, Paula? Then I'll really have to try not to cry while I read it. Y'all can see that she's the 5th grader, I'm the teacher. Hala's spark is best explained through pride. She shows perseverance, respect, integrity, determination, and empathy. Hala came to us as a newcomer from Jordan in 3rd grade. Her first few months were very challenging as she learned a new language, new writing system, and new culture. She quickly won our hearts with her bubbly personality and work effort. Now, as a 5th grader, Hala is one of the top students in all senses. She takes initiative to go above and beyond in all assignments, to support classmates, and to be a good citizen of our school. Hala is a member of Just Run Club as well as Pride Patrol. I look forward to seeing her smile every morning as she assists us with morning duty of greeting students as they enter the school. I am beyond proud of Hala's achievements and the spectacular example she is to all our students, especially our English language learners. Hala has persevered through learning a new language, new writing system, and culture. Her first year in the U.S. was difficult. There were many tears in the beginning as she dealt with the frustration of being an amazing student but not being able to show this due to a language barrier. In Jordan, Hala was one of the top students in her school. When she came to us, she knew very little English and had to learn how to read as if she were a kindergarten student. She grew so much the first year. By the end, she had made many friends and was helping us teach our 1st and 2nd graders how to read. Now, Hala receives gifted and talented support for math and exuberant confidence. At our school, Hala assists teachers with morning duties, standing in cold, rain, heat, and everything in between to greet students in the morning. After school, she has even helped some of the younger students get home safely. Once she noticed while walking home that one of our 1st graders was crying. She stayed with her until the student's mom came to pick her up. Hala is a role model for all our students at our school and in her community. I'm going to skip a little bit. She has a maturity far beyond her years. She is funny, compassionate, and a joy to be around. Next year, she will move on to the middle school. We will miss her so much, but know she is going to soar. Oh, sure. So this all started because a year ago, when we were working on morning meetings, I was looking, we always do these daily, like, it's National Pie Day, it's National French Fry Day, all these crazy things, and one of the days ended up being National Incredible Kid Day. So there was a website, and I pledged that I would tell somebody how incredible they were, and I did with my own children. And then this year, I got an update from that organization saying that I could nominate somebody, and I chose to nominate Hala and thought, well, I probably won't hear back. But here, sure enough, we heard back, and she was one of the ones on it. So
Is this a national competition?
It is a national, yes,
Wow.
national competition. She's already gone to Missouri, and she will be going to LA on March 25th, right?
March 20th or 21st.
Oh, okay, you're going with her.
Is there anything Hala you want to tell us about the first conference you went to?
Not sure.
Anything you learned, or what
Anything
was
from the conference
interesting
in
about the
Missouri?
conference?
I was so thankful to be nominated by Mrs. Yeomans and for Ms. Smith for letting this happen, and thank you all for coming here as well. And what I enjoyed over there was like going over there, being gifted with a reward, and been like nominated by like it's like all over the U.S. and it was like 3 people that were nominated, and I was one of them. And like going over there, seeing a lot of people, going to a new place, seeing stuff, and like yeah, and I saw a football player, and he came up and gave me the reward, and his name is, I think, Will Shields. I think that's it.
And Hala, we have a certificate to present to you tonight as well. And it reads, in recognition of outstanding effort, perseverance, and excellence as a student and volunteer at Chestnut Elementary School, having received the Incredible Kid Award through Campfire, you have brought pride to your school and family as a model of leadership and academic excellence. Congratulations, Hala.
Thank you.
And we still have our WOW winners to recognize tonight, our Writer of the Week. And I'm going to ask Mrs. Camper to take care of that.
Dr. Engelhardt, before you
Yeah.
we move on to WOW, I think we need to owe her parents some gratitude for raising such an incredible young lady and encouraging her to acclimate to this country as well as she did. So thank you, parents and brother, I'm assuming, sister, and, you know, everybody in the world, but, you know, it's yes, everyone who's here with her. We know how difficult it is to move to a new country and to learn the language and the culture, and obviously you didn't have much time to kind of get in the groove of school, but it's just incredible how well you have done, and thank you for representing us, and thanks to your family for all their support and how well you're doing. So. And now for WOW, one of my favorites.
Hi. How's everyone tonight? I love when the evening is this positive to kick off. It's so long, it's
National
so
Nap
amazing.
Day.
So I am here again,
National
representing the
Days.
Painesville City Local Schools Curriculum Department, and we are proud to recognize Ethan. Ethan, will you come on down? As the featured writer of the week. As I have mentioned before, but I have a new audience, so I have to tell. The WOW Award is intended to honor individual student writing pieces that exceed our expectations and serve to inspire our PCLS community of writers. Ethan's teacher, Ms. Johnson, submitted his persuasive letter, "I want a hamster," because he used such a convincing voice, and it felt as if he were speaking directly to you. He gave valid reasons and ended it with a final plea. "I was very impressed," quote his teacher. Are you ready? Okay, convince us. Okay.
I want a hamster. Dear Mom and Dad, I and Alexis really want a hamster. One reason I want a hamster is it's so small and so cute. It's so small and so cute, I will take it for walks. It's hard work to take a hamster for walks. You will not need to worry about Ginger eating it. It will live in my room. I will feed it lettuce, and I will clean my room so it will not get hurt. I will play with it so it will get experience in the world. Also, it can stay in a cage its whole life. I and Alexis really want a hamster. I will do anything except clean this cage. But anything. Love, peace, and
Did you get a hamster?
not yet.
Not yet.
Do you have a cage?
Not yet.
Do you need one? Contact me, Mom and Dad. I'm not kidding.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you.
Ethan, that was not only very well written, but very well read.
And very
Good
entertaining.
job.
Yes. Did you draw a picture of your hamster? Is that what was sticking out of your? Very nice.
Well, again, excellent work by our students. Thank you for their efforts. Thank you so much to all of our families for their support. We have so many great things to celebrate among our kids every day, and so we appreciate the opportunity to share in a few small celebrations with you this evening.
So Owen, what was the word that stumped you?
I have no clue, I forgot.
Dad, do you remember?
No, I don't. I try to forget it.
Probably about that long.
I've been there, and there is
There is nothing more painful than being at the county spelling bee
Oh, my
watching your kid
Oh, no
Oh,
kidding.
it's horrible.
not win after all that work. Next year, Owen. What grade are you in, Owen?
7th.
Perfect, so you got another year.
One more.
All right, man.
Jennifer, what word was a problem for you, honey?
Yeah.
But the good news, Owen, is that Jennifer's gonna be there, and I don't know if you're gonna make her better and she's gonna win, or she's gonna make you better, and that's what competition does, so. We're lucky that we have such smart students and hardworking students, because that's what gets it done. Congratulations.
I think somebody
We,
back there was.
we have one additional, he got held up a little bit in traffic. That
Okay.
he would like to give something to Hala, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Great, and I apologize, but I'm from Pittsburgh.
That's apology.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Pittsburgh holds me up. I think whoever's better up there. That's what we're doing right now. No, really, I was in a fender bender. Then I didn't know I had to go through the part of town that was Amish country, that I stayed behind a buggy for 42 minutes. And I'm looking at the clock, and I promised Mr. Clean I would be here. And so I'm here. And thank you for letting us present what we have as absolutely incredible kid. We had 2,700 nominations at our national headquarters in Kansas City, Missouri. And of the 27 nominations, we dwindled them down to 100. We dwindled it down to 50, and then we dwindled it down to 3. And we are proud to say that Cresthurst Elementary School is one of the 3 participants. And this one is. So not only does she get this great fine certificate that I did by myself on the run today, I just have a tie on, I'm really ready to go. I'm not sure much today. But we flew her out to Kansas City. We had a day for absolutely incredible kids. And she gets to fly to LA on the 24th. They're going to fly her out, red carpet celebration, that we're going to celebrate her and 2 other folks. All kids are incredible, but we have a really special place in our heart for what she has done, what she's overcome, and what she has achieved. So she'll be flown out to LA the 24th, right? 22nd. I'm so prepared. She'll fly out to LA the 22nd. They'll have the celebration on the 24th, and she will be recognized by DC Comic, which is the Shazam movie. They're going to have a red carpet celebration that her and 2 others will be celebrated. And we at Camp Fire couldn't be more proud of the 3. We got to spend a lot of time with her and her father when they came out to Kansas City. I was actually their chauffeur, so I had a lot of time. I was late to pick them up at the airport too. I don't know if this is a trend. My wife is like, this might be a trend. But I'm not going to call that trend. I'm not going to claim it. I'm not going to own that. But it was just a great opportunity, a great submission by her teacher, great submission by the principal and superintendent. It's great because we don't even have a council in Ohio.
No.
We don't have facilities in Ohio, but somebody read the story online and submitted her application, and 2,700 kids later. Ta-da. So I want to give this to the school. Who should I give it to? Thank you. It wasn't so late. Okay.
We're so proud of you, Hala.
Yes. And we're proud too. So she has another great event. And are you on spring break that week? Because if not, she's sick.
She gets a pass.
So, thank you very much for creating all these incredible kids, and we are just so happy that we'll get to see her again on the 24th. It'll be late.
And thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you very much, thank you.
No Steelers?
Thanks.
Oh, no. Don't push your luck. Great. Very good.
There's still time to change evaluation scores, right?
That's not on there.
Okay, where are we? So for all of our incredible students, the rest of the meeting is not real exciting, that is exciting.
Oh, come on.
So, well, except for Ms. Remington's legislative report.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So you don't have to stay, that's your call.
You're welcome if you want to sit at
Yes.
something, but
Yeah, next time.
Yeah.
Thank you all again.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Thank you.
I wish Dave had no kids.
Okay, our next regular meeting is April 8th.
Are we having any committee meetings before that?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I believe the individual committees have set their dates. The one exception is the community outreach. We haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
So I'll get those set and get some proposed dates out to everybody.
Thank you.
And item 6 is our legislative report. Ms. Remington?
Yes, our legislative report is fairly brief. Our first item comes from the Senate Finance Committee and Senate Bill number 4. And this bill appropriates $100 million for school facility projects. They have to do this every year to appropriate money for the facilities, but I thought it was a very interesting fact that $50 million comes from the lottery.
Oh.
And that is, the lottery profits go into the educational fund, which is Fund 1017. So we always wonder how much money we get, and 50 million is put in, which is half of what they've allocated for the school funding. The House Finance Committee conducted hearings on House Bill 62, which funds the state transportation budget. The bill affects school districts by increasing the fuel tax refund from 6 cents to 24 cents. The purpose of that was to offset the bill's initial 18-cent increase in the gas tax. This just passed the House, so it is law. The Senate Ways and Means Committee heard proponent testimony on Senate Bill 26. This permits teachers to deduct from their state income taxes up to $250 for out-of-pocket expenses for classroom supplies and professional development. That has not passed yet. And the Senate Judiciary Committee heard testimony for Senate Bill 16, which would require public high schools to instruct students on the proper way to interact with police officers. And they would cover things such as what do you do if you're stopped by the police in your car? You know, what's the proper way to behave, to interact with them? And really, any time that a peace officer approaches them, what the proper way is to encounter that when they come up to a student and want to speak with them about anything in particular. And then my last is the Senate Ways and Means Committee. They heard proponent testimony on Senate Bill 36, and this bill revises the standards for county auditors when assessing federally subsidized residential rental property values. And I think this is important to us because we do have quite a bit of Section 8 housing and a lot of rental properties. So we'll want to keep an eye on how that develops. So that is my legislative report for this month. Any questions? Good. Thank you.
No questions
I'm done.
or comments?
Nope. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Remington. Mr. Webster? No? Thank you, Ms. Remington. Okay, we need a motion for the treasurer's consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Seaman?
Sure. 7.1 is to accept the tax rates and to certify the tax levy. So earlier in the year, we approved the tax budget. I submitted it to the county auditor. They have approved my tax budget. And so now this is to accept the rates for them to collect the taxes in order to turn around and give us our money. So that is the first resolution. The second resolution is the first of two to place the renewal for the financing district on the ballot in November. This one is basically, once we pass this one tonight, we'll send it over to the county auditor and they'll determine how much money the levy will actually generate. So it's a two-step process and all four of the school districts have to be on board with this. So everyone is doing the first resolution at their March board meeting. The third item that I have are donations that were presented to the district. And the fourth item I have is this year's exempt salary schedule. I talked about in my memo that I sent home about adding transportation supervisor back onto the schedule. We took them off when we had shared services, but we don't share services anymore, so we placed it back on. So those are the four items that I have for this evening. Any questions?
Do you think this will be the last financing district levy?
I don't think so. We all have agreed that the way that it has been distributed is not fair. I don't want to see it my way, but that's okay. And so, but we all agree that it is easier to pass a renewal than to go out for new money.
Oh, absolutely.
So we all are sticking together, and basically the consensus was for the new formula is that basically what your district brings in is what you will receive. And that was fair across the boards. In the past, we were receiving more than what, it was based on ADM.
Right.
And so everything was divided by ADM. Well, our valuation compared to the other three districts was a lot lower than the rest. So we were making out in the arrangement. And so the other districts that weren't kind of said, look, for what my taxpayers are paying into it, I could be getting more if I went out on my own. So we're like, wait, let's all stay together. So we have agreed that when this one starts, the collection will be what you bring in will be what you get. So it won't be based on ADM anymore, it'll be based on your valuation.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we need to call the roll, because we made the motion already, and there's no further discussion, okay.
Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Dr. Humphries?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Ms. Powers Dolny?
Yes.
Okay, then 8.1 through 8.5, we're still working on trying to capture the old reports and the new reports. I think we're pretty much there. 8.5, the grand totals do not work. I contacted LGCA and they've reached out to the state support team to fix the bug in that report. But if you look section by section, those numbers are accurate. So we're still finding just little oddball things like that. So when you look at the grand totals, none of the numbers are going to mean anything. They're way off kilter. So they're putting a patch on this report to make that represent the actual numbers.
Questions or comments? You could be pretty busy this, as other districts do this conversion also.
There are 5 that are converting this spring.
Oh dear.
Yep.
Are you getting a consultant fee?
No one's gone live yet, so.
Okay, we need a motion for item 9, the superintendent's consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
Okay, 9.1 is the TDA proposal for design at Rec Park. 9.2 is an MOU with the Painesville Police Department for defining the roles and responsibilities of the school resource officer. 9.3 is also an MOU with the Painesville Police Department, which outlines the agreement for a salary schedule for the middle school and elementary SRO position. 9.4 is a resolution for calamity days. 9.5 is an agreement with re-education services. And 9.6 is E-rate contract for fiber lines to the stadium.
Questions or comments?
I have a question about 9.6, the E-rate. Once we have that down at Jack Brett Stadium, will anyone who uses that be charged? Will there be a fee for the use of the Wi-Fi?
It won't be available because it's on our network.
Okay, so it's
So-
just for our use and anyone else would have to provide their own?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I was just gonna say, are we charging anyone for the use of it if they could use
Yeah.
it? So, okay.
Dr. Engelhardt, we spoke at the last meeting about the SRO. So we are hiring 2 full-time, or we will have 2 full-time.
Yes.
One of which will be at the middle school, and then will he go to, I mean, that wasn't spelled out, and I know it's probably not worked out yet about the elementaries.
Yeah. So we have, with those personnel, we have the right of assignment. So
Okay.
we can assign them
Okay.
wherever we need them. And so my vision would be with 2 full-time people, we can get more coverage.
Right.
Because the buildings are on different schedules, so that we can have an officer at arrival and dismissal just about everywhere on a more regular basis.
Okay.
I mean, the title of this, of the salary schedule, it's called elementary and middle school, because it's an officer that's not gonna be assigned to the high school, because we already have an officer
Right.
here who is going to primarily be here.
Okay.
So we'll be able to have flexibility of assignment,
Okay.
but the main home bases of our 2 school resource officers are gonna be at the high school and the middle school.
And these will be, we will be paying or contributing for 12 months and not a 10-month?
Yeah, that's how it's
Okay.
outlined. So there's
Okay.
still that bridge over the summer of,
Of-
we have to decide what the proper use of that time is
Okay.
going to be, so we continue to get benefit out of the investment.
So that, we said last month it might be following the
What's
food-
lunch?
the lunch box and working summer school and stuff like that.
Can we kind of have him, can we basically contract him out, him or her out? In other words, if the library needs someone,
Right.
instead of taking chiefs overtime and paying a guy overtime, could we say, hey, we're gonna have you work over the weekend or in the evenings because you know, we don't really need you here at the school, the library needs people at school, in the evenings.
Yeah.
Is that a possibility?
I mean, I think that that's a solution that really meets a lot of needs. I
Yeah.
think it would meet everybody's needs. So we haven't, the items that are before us tonight are not it's not spelling out the whole labor
Okay.
agreement.
Right.
So those are aspects that we need to negotiate through to create that, and then that labor agreement will come before the board. But that's certainly something that I would like to pursue, because not only is it a more efficient use of our funds,
Yeah.
but again, it would meet a lot of needs.
Okay.
And I mean, I can't speak on behalf of the department, but I would think that, you know, if we kind of outline those parameters, and as long as they know upfront as they are talking to candidates,
Mhm.
and they find people who are able and willing to do that, that it would.
Well, we did talk about that
Right.
with the police at the work session a little
Yeah.
bit. And, you know, they were all for finding, you know, creative uses.
Right.
Certainly with the library, we would have to work through that with the library, you know, that, because them and the police, I guess, they're not always as appreciative of having the police presence at the times that the police want to be there,
Right, right.
and some other
Yeah,
things,
I
so
remember that discussion, yeah.
we would have to work that out, but, yeah, I mean, I think there's, and it's still an opportunity for them to build relationship with students, because there's a lot of students there in the summer.
The library,
And,
sure.
you know, so it's not just, you know, using them in a mercenary way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think if they understand that, you know, they would be there to interact with our students and not to address the homeless issue that the library tends, you know, to be having all the time. And that this is a way to, you know, build community and relationships with our students. It would.
So if they are doing something like that, working at the library, are we still paying for that?
Well, that's what we have
That's
to
what
work out.
we need to
with-
work out,
with
okay.
the labor piece of it.
Okay.
No, just to trade out,
Okay.
yeah, and just so that I'm clear, we've got a memo of understanding that outlines the salary expectations for 5 years and how that salary grows over time, which makes sense. And I don't have any concerns for that, but is this committing us to, in other words, as we enter into this agreement, is this part entering us into an agreement that says this is the last 5 years? Do we know that, or are we committing to that right now?
I would say that the separate labor contract is going to determine the term,
Okay.
but just the compensation overlay of whatever that term is has to be consistent with this.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
okay.
so no, this in and of itself doesn't say that, or whoever this
We got you
person
for
is.
5 years. Yeah,
is
this
5
isn't a
years.
labor contract, this is just, if we, once that labor contract is in place, this is gonna be the schedule we're gonna follow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In that summary schedule, Dr. Engelhardt, under notes, item number 4 says to come up with the benefits, the city added 40%.
Yeah. What does that
That's high.
have?
What the city did tell me is when they ran calculations, the actual benefit costs are going to be the actual costs.
Okay.
They did communicate that they kind of shot high conservatively to give us numbers to budget for.
Okay.
So it might not be that high. The salary might not, but there's a really good
Based
chance
on what
it will
the
be.
benefits really cost, so
Yeah.
it could go up
Yeah.
if healthcare costs increase,
Right.
then it could go up.
We don't know who this
No.
individual is in this position.
Right.
So in the past, we have not been paying our SRO at the high school, we have not been paying 100% of salary and benefits, have we?
That's a split.
Okay, but now we will be paying 100% of everything. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, because I think it's money well spent, I
Yeah.
think it's worth it for the safety of our children, I just want,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's an additional, it's
Okay.
certainly additional investment.
Are we gonna set any kind of precedent for our current situation with our SRO, that they're gonna expect us to pony up 100% for him then?
Will they both be paid the
I mean,
same fee?
I would-
Okay.
Well,
would
I
assume
mean,
so, wouldn't you?
we have an agreement for that position
Right.
that outlines the terms of that. So as long as that's in place, and I don't know what the term of that
Yeah,
is.
I don't know what the term is off the top of my head either, but it's been in place.
He's been here he's been here 18 years.
18 years, because
Yeah.
I've been here
It was
for,
2001.
yeah, he was here when I was
So
still
this is
there.
seen as something different and something
Yes.
additional, and so the city's not gonna come back around and go, oh.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
foresee
Okay.
that happening, and that's why this MOU is specific to this position, is because it is a different structure.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, so we need,
We have a motion and a second, we just need to
Yes.
take a vote.
yes, a vote,
We're
please.
good?
Uh-huh.
Dr. Humphries?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes,
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Ms. Powers Dolly?
Yes.
Non-action item, 10.1 is policy updates, first reading.
Anything in there that we should pay particular attention to?
Well, I mean, we just reviewed as a committee, and there are a lot of fairly minor language changes in a lot of them. The one policy that's brand new
The social media
pertains
policy.
to social media, yeah. And that's a lot of the updates this time around were around electronic communication, social media, just the kind of updates that you would expect with policy that addresses technology and communications.
the one thing about videos that are made, you know, for the district, let's say Jeremy's class has to do some type of creative video situation. The students have to meet all of the requirements of the district's website and YouTube and all those things. In other words, whatever they produce and is put on our site has to be appropriate for our site and can't just be
A random.
yeah, whatever, you know, whatever they feel is, you know, creative type of thing, unless they have their own channel,
Right,
kind of,
with
as
no
right,
association to
right.
the school.
Yeah, okay. That was the one thing, because I know how students can come up with some pretty creative things that may not be necessarily appropriate for a school website. You know, they can be a little questionable, creative, and somewhat wonderful, but would not necessarily be looked at favorably by some of our residents who might be viewing, so, okay.
Okay, we need a motion for item 11, personnel.
So moved.
Okay, 11.1 is resignation, retirement. 11.2 is employment. 11.3 is change of assignment. 11.4 is tutor list. 11.5 is leaves. 11.6 certified substitutes. 11.7 classified substitutes. 11.8 supplemental and pupil activity contracts. 11.9 is sports gate help.
Any questions or comments here?
Okay. Ms. Remington?
Yes,
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Dr. Humphries?
Yes.
Ms. Powers Dolly?
Yes. And item 12, we need a motion for professional visits.
So move.
Second.
Okay, 12.1 are professional visits taken from the general fund, and 12.2 are professional visits paid by grant funds.
Okay, I have a question about the professional visits grant funds. There's one here for 2 individuals to go for 2 days, and it's costing $2,200.
Yeah, so the CPI training is, that is de-escalation and even has aspects of restraint when it's
Okay.
necessary for,
Spent,
for kids who,
Anyone.
yeah. And that is, there is a certification component to that as
Okay.
well. It's pretty specialized training.
Okay.
There, if I remember correctly, there have been issues, not with our district, of course, but with other districts where teachers have been held liable for the way they have tried to restrain
Not
students,
properly.
right, that were out of control, so.
And those individuals are within district people who train our folks who do refresher
Mhm.
trainings for us.
Okay.
So we kind of do a bit of a train-the-trainer model, because it is pretty specialized, and it's,
Mhm.
so that's our approach on that.
It just seemed like a hefty expense compared to the others.
Yeah,
Mm.
right,
Okay. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't a typo.
yeah, that's right.
What is it on the general fund professional visits, what's a glazier clinic? I thought a glazier was someone who installed glass.
It's a football,
What is it?
it's a football clinic for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Football clinic? To become a better glazier?
I think it's a name.
Oh, it's a name of
The
the
name of
clinic.
the company that
Yes.
runs the clinic.
Got it, thank you.
It's about the same cost as the one that they run through the Greater Cleveland upstate.
Okay.
Mrs. Seemuck?
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Dr. Humphries?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Ms. Paratoni?
Yes. And Dr. Humphries, has anyone signed in to speak?
No, ma'am, no one has signed
Okay.
in to speak.
So, item 14.1, recognizing positive moments and/or events.
Well, the proud father sitting to the left of me, this one,
Yeah.
his daughter was phenomenal.
And to the right.
And to the right, oh, it's.
Yeah.
Sam had a bit of a larger role.
Oh, okay, yeah, just a little. You know, the play, of course, was wonderful. Sam, what a great senior role for her.
She had fun.
She owned her role. But it was very enjoyable. My only comment, and Sean, perhaps you can help me. I know that the lighting was was going on and off, like the sound was not professional, but it was my understanding that it wasn't, because the sound man had been spending 4 days trying to fix the lights and the light board. So they couldn't work on the sound. So is there something wrong with the electrical work in the performing arts that's like causing things to go haywire?
Recognizing positive.
Might
Yes,
sound-
well, I'm asking, so it can even be more positive.
This might sound weird, but
Oh, try me.
we have some really nice stuff in there.
Yes.
I don't think we know how to use it well.
I know the one in, I don't wanna get too far.
No,
off
I
the
don't
topic on
either,
this
no,
but
yeah.
I know they were saying that from like Monday through Wednesday, lights were just coming on.
Right, coming
And
out.
I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
and
if it's an issue of them pressing the wrong buttons on the board or connecting
It's
things wrong.
The programs you're using are
Uh-huh.
complicated,
Yeah.
and they're not necessarily matching up with what's there.
Right.
And so they were having problems with getting those cues correct. But before the performance started, when I spoke to them, they said it was all fine, we're just gonna use those, we're doing very basic cues, and I don't know whether they
Yeah.
decided at some point to go with the more complicated ones. Now, we do have a small issue with the power's not very clean going in there, and that's what's causing some of the components that have been, over the years, have been frying. So that isn't that hard to fix.
Well, I
But
just, these kids
it's not
work
what
so
was causing
hard,
those issues.
and they do such a great job. I would just want them to have,
Well, now, and a lot of this
the
is
best.
secondhand, because I really don't have anything to do with what's going on in
right,
there.
Right.
right.
But yeah, I did talk to the engineer before the performance, and they were confident it was gonna go well, so I'm assuming they
Okay.
must have decided to.
Well, and they made some good improvements from Friday night to Saturday, and they got some things done.
Yeah.
It's just, and I've talked with Mr. Jones about some possible options and want to get some information from him. But anyway, all
I
in
just
all,
want our kids to
everybody,
have the best.
everybody
They
put
work so
on
hard.
a great, they made a great effort.
Yeah.
And, one of the great things about that particular production is it had a huge cast and there was a big role for all of the kids.
Yeah.
They weren't just, one little thing here or there for the most part.
Yeah.
The ensembles had a lot of exposure and the ability to do anything. And, the kids mentioned it after Sunday's performance. Kim Hildak just, goes over the top in her effort in supporting this. Barb Mauner does an
Costumes.
amazing job with the costumes. One thing that I think which was new this year was Hannah Green.
Right, because.
Worked with the kids
Right.
in their choreography, and she did an amazing job. The choreography was fantastic.
And the kids loved it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Loved the show.
You could tell they loved it.
Yeah, they had great fun.
And that's Mr. Green's daughter.
Yes. And,
Is that
of course,
really?
Mr. Jones,
I didn't
yeah,
realize that.
Brendan, yeah.
I didn't know. Jeez.
Mr. Jones, of course, like everything else he does, he goes 150% and really works hard with Kim to get a great experience for everybody. So, it was a great weekend and it
Now,
all,
just to add, I never received any type of email or phone call from
Yeah.
Amir or Kim about
Yeah.
any issues.
I
they
would
had
just,
with
if
the
you could
budget
check it
or-
out. I'm not
it's a
trying
building
to
issue. I mean,
downplay anything, because it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But I was there on opening night and, couldn't really hear the kids in the background, and the sound was a little shaky. And I just want our kids to have the best, that they can have, so that their performance is the best it can be, so.
I do agree, and I really do think that in the coming year, as we think about how we're spending money, we're about to spend a bunch of money on really important improvements to Jack Brett. But I think this stuff is every bit as important.
I
And it may
agree.
not be a safety issue, and we've got a safety issue down at Jack Brett, but we're doing some other things that are there to improve that facility and the experience of our community. And I really think we need to find a way to be a little bit more aggressive on this technical end, to give Ms. Hildak and Mr. Jones the support they need to get it kind of resolved. Because it is, you're just like, boy, this is.
Now, I can tell you,
It's
I
far from
spent
being
much more money,
amazing.
I spent much more money on the auditorium than I have on anything athletic-wise out of my budget.
Yeah, however, that was a publicly funded, it was not part of the bond. It was an additional item that the residents voted on to.
No, but I
To
mean,
do
I think
that.
we are doing a really good job right now at supporting the program.
Now, a
Well,
question.
but it needs to show the results.
Yeah.
You know, if it's not showing the results, I mean, I'm not saying necessarily, I don't know what resources they need, I'm not an expert, but the outcome isn't really what I would expect.
Yeah, and when one of our biggest supporters approaches me to talk to me about it.
She approached me also.
Yeah, not good. You know, I know we have people use our auditorium, and I'm assuming we contract and fee, they pay a fee to use it. I would hope, anyway. Couldn't that money be put in for the maintenance and upkeep of that facility? I mean,
Right.
it seems, that's what I know we do at the college, when people rent out Morley, you know, that money helps
I think
the
when
upkeep
people
of
rent
it.
it out though, it's our sound people that are running it. I don't think they're in there.
Well, I mean, even for the just
Right.
just the use
Just have
of
the
it,
revenue.
Right.
that's wear and tear of,
Yeah.
of the,
Absolutely, just like the field.
right, absolutely, yeah, so, anyway, the play was wonderful, the kids, just their talent amazes me, and,
And
I
one
just-
other positive thing to attach to that, we had a lot of families chip in with snacks and
I
meals
noticed
and
that,
drinks
huge
and-
amount of family
Yeah.
involvement in this play.
So it was really
Yeah.
a community effort.
It
in a
was,
lot
it
of
was, it was wonderful
Well,
to
and
see.
to what you're speaking about is for the meals and support of the kids
Yeah.
during the week prior to the
Right.
performance, where they're there for 4 hours in the evening, and,
Right.
you know, from 5 to 9, getting all the final things out of the way. So they did get a lot of support. I mean,
And
there's
we-
probably a dozen or more families that
Provided
provided
meals.
food
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
support, so that was outstanding too.
Yeah, wonderful.
Um,
And then I think, I get to take my mother for her 91st birthday to have spaghetti. Here tomorrow night, isn't that, you know, wow, what a great way to celebrate, huh?
So the spaghetti dinner starts at 5 o'clock, 5 to 8
Yeah.
here in Harvard. So it's a $5 meal,
Yeah.
I believe. There's also raffle baskets available. There's also a grand prize drawing for, forget the dimensions, but a great big TV.
Great big
52
TV.
inch, was it a 52
Is
inch
there
or
a
something
50/50
like that?
also? Don't they usually have a 50/50?
They'll probably run
Yeah, they
50.
usually
Yeah.
do a 50/50, yeah.
I'll make sure you don't leave with any.
Right,
Yeah.
with any cash.
Yeah, any cash you come in with will be gone.
And it's a
just
great
know that,
community
so,
event too.
Yeah.
Yes, it
We
is.
get a lot of folks
Food's
there.
good. We've
Yeah.
done good.
I guess I wanted to, you know, even though it's not necessarily what we might normally say is a good thing happening, but the workshop that I went to, you know, I'm grateful that the district paid for the fee for that. You know, it's a 4-hour workshop down in Columbus on staff evaluation of superintendents and treasurers and board self-evaluation. It really was an outstanding event. It was the first time they'd ever done it.
Okay.
You know, I sent you the PowerPoint slides, and you don't get necessarily a good feel for all of the complexity that they were talking about. But to wrap it up in a very short way, they are promoting a system of evaluation that is integrally tied to district goals and objectives, not necessarily personal goals, and it's not, you know, we've talked for a couple of years about, you know, how we feel our evaluation forms are kind of,
Outdated.
yeah, they don't perform well.
Right.
And, you know, essentially, they want the evaluation process to be a year-long process. And starting, you know, in the summer, establishing the goals, working through a couple of intermediate dates on assessment and finding out, you know, how you're doing, do you have all the resources you need, et cetera, where are we going, you know, is it working, do we need to make changes, whatever, and then following through kind of into the spring with doing more assessment and final evaluation, and then taking next steps and to reset the process all again for the following year. And it's gotta be tied to, strategic plan and to all of that, and it makes absolute great sense, and it makes, the process meaningful, or much more meaningful, I think, than the way we are handling it now. And I could spend probably 20 minutes talking about it, I'm not going to do that, but obviously, you'd throw me out of here, but, I would like to work with Mr. Webster and kind of put together, if he's willing to, I haven't asked him about it yet, kind of put together a proposal, because it would probably also involve some language changes to their contracts. Just because of what's written in your contracts about when evaluations take place and all that kind of stuff. But we would obviously need to agree on any changes to your contract. We wouldn't just throw it in there without your input, but, the whole idea is that it's a collaborative process, not just, checking some boxes and
So
look through.
we should probably spend some time at a work session talking about this,
Yeah.
don't you?
Yeah, but we need to put together something in advance of that.
Okay.
It's not just something to sit and talk about, and we need to put together a solid proposal to
Okay.
bring to a work session to discuss.
Okay.
So, that's what I'd like to do, is start to lay that groundwork. Obviously, we've just finished the evaluation process, or are in the process of finishing it, so it's not gonna be relevant for this year. And we may not be able to get it in place in time for next year. We'll see, but, I think it's a valuable tool, and there are resources on the OSBA website, and I'll be pulling those and sending links and, that sort of stuff to everybody. But, and it's not just OSBA coming up with these ideas, obviously. They're pulling from resources across the country and looking at best practices and a lot of HR professionals and all of that stuff in order to kind of come to this recommendation. But I think it's worth exploring.
Well, this is something you've wanted to do for a few years. You've brought it up previously, so we need to move on it.
Well, I think, we've all kind of expressed in one way or another, with the exception of Dr. Humphries, who hasn't had to endure this process, but, it's just, sometimes it just seems like, we're just checking it off because we have to, and it's a waste of time. So we don't need to spend that kind of effort for very little reward. So.
I'd be interested in looking at it with you, so we can do that, I'd be happy to.
Great, I appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah. We've been doing a lot of work at the clinic around this area about evaluation and how we approach it, and so I'd be interested to see what they have to say, and because we've kind of changed our model quite a bit, and we're actually really moving, again, the focus is not about even, it's about how you get the best performance, so that's what it's really about. So,
Right, I mean,
of course,
it-
you guys are both top performers, so, but how do we help you, or how do we help anyone?
The point of their whole presentation was this process, the whole point of the process is to improve the quality of education for our students. It's not to beat somebody up or to tear them down, to deal with salary or whatever, and it's not to pump somebody up. It's to get our schools to work towards better continuous improvement. you know, that's the goal, and so this process needs to be a part of that, and instead of just kind of a, yeah, he's doing this right, or she's doing that right, or wrong, or whatever, you know, it's not about a value judgment on the person's characteristics necessarily. It's about how effective they are in continually improving the school. So, anyway, yes, I mean, we're all trying to achieve those results identified in the strategic plan, and this needs to be a part of that. But I had, you know, as far as good things happening, I had a great time. It was really, for a 4-hour seminar, which could be misery, it was actually really enjoyable. There was great dialogue. There was people from all over the state. There's about 20 board members, one superintendent. They were local. Her and the board president came. But you know, there was a good mix of people, and a lot of relatively new and also very experienced board members, and it was a really engaging workshop. It was fun to attend, believe it or not. So, with that, should I read the?
Sure.
Well, wait, I got one.
Oh.
Did we talk at our last meeting? I don't think we can end this meeting without talking about the performance of the boys basketball team.
Oh,
So I'm sorry, I don't.
Good
know.
things happening.
I know
good
that-
things.
Yeah, they just reported themselves so well, had a great season. And I was looking today on the Max Prep site, and, you know, a couple of points that, if Orange had had 3 more points against Perry, we would have been district champions. And there's so many things that were so close. And, but you know, in everything that team did, they really seemed to, you know, carry themselves really well and represent the district really well.
And it was important for us too, because it ignited some spirit here. And it does show you how important successes are to pull people together.
It's also an example of good sportsmanship, because there are times that, you know, I know we're saying this as biased with our kids, but sometimes the officiating is questionable at best, let's just say that.
I don't understand that. I'd like somebody to explain it to me, because I don't understand why it seems,
I mean, some of those
I
games that we lost by 4
just have a
points, it's
hard
like,
time
really?
managing myself, but I'm like.
You agree? Oh.
You only heard me a couple times and I stopped.
I also think, you know,
I
to
screamed
have our
something.
students being accepted into programs this summer at Yale and at Cornell, and, you know, that's pretty incredible. That speaks volumes on our students. That's great news.
Absolutely.
And state, I know, just, it's what an opportunity for them, but it again speaks volume for the education they're getting here, so.
Well, the state competition for FBLA is coming up.
Yeah,
here in
that's
the next
right.
couple weeks.
Mhm.
And so by our next board meeting, we'll
Next
probably
week.
have some
We'll have some
more
results.
great news to
Right.
share.
Yep. So, very good, okay. Did we vote to change the, or we already did, change the executive session?
The language, yeah.
Language.
We did that at the beginning.
Okay, but we did vote on that. Okay.
So I move pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22, subparagraph G, subparagraph 1, that the board adjourn to executive session for the purpose of considering the employment or compensation of an employee of the school district.
Second.